So it's been a while since I made an actual tutorial, and so this one I'm intending to actually, make an entire tutorial on how you can make KRUNKER renders for basically completely free. And I'm going to be including timestamps. I'm going to do only one take of this because this is probably going to end up being like an hour long. There's going to be timestamps in the description, of course, because like if you already know some stuff or you don't want to know some stuff, then like you should be able to skip around. So I'm going to be also recording the timestamps on the fly, which means I guess we should begin right now. So about 43 seconds in, we have how you can get Blender. So what we're going to be using as a software in order for you to make your renders is Blender. It's completely free. It's like more free than free. You can download the source code, you can compile it yourself, you can whatever. But open it up with whatever browser you so desire. Literally any browser. Nobody uses this browser, trust me. And then navigate to blender.org. And then you're going to see this. You're going to see, big download button. Of course, if you want to download it, you click the download button. Brings you to Blender. And then you can, of course, click the download Blender link, which will start downloading Blender. Of course, I don't want it to download Blender, so I'm going to cancel this. And, quit. So I already have Blender installed. So with Blender open, you're going to be greeted with a screen that asks you for like, hey, what's your preferences and stuff? Choose whatever themes you want and keep to basically the default settings. Shut up, Steam. I don't care. So now we're going to be opening up Blender. So this is like, I'm going to say 2 minutes, 3 seconds. Just write this down. So we're just opening up Blender. And once you've clicked and you've confirmed your choices for your menu navigation and such, like what tools you're going to use, after doing the defaults, you're going to see a screen that looks basically blank. You're not going to see any recent files because you don't have any recent files. So as far as files that you're going to need, they're all on my Discord server. Like, Discord server link in the description. I should also, make sure you go to that because it's going to be heavily used. Specifically in the resources channel under the GFX section, you're going to be seeing a lot of different resources which are going to be publicly used. So the things of importance that you want is this thing, this by Eevee, which is basically just like a rig I made and you modified to make it better. Free, download button for that. Scroll up, download button for the zip, and you want to extract this zip file. Other things you might want is wastes, faces, body items, and hat items. Those are all just, like compressed things you can just like unpack, and you got all of them. You're not going to need all of them right now. All you're going to need is actually the rig, the char3.blend file. So, with Blender open, you can just create a new general project, and we're going to start learning about how to start navigating in Blender. So I'll mark this as whatever. So navigating in Blender. So I'll turn on some things that way you can see what I'm pressing down here. So with Blender open, one thing you're going to want to get instantly familiar with is using the middle mouse button in order to pan around like this. You're going to be doing this a lot. So with the middle mouse button, click, drag, hold. With shift and the middle mouse button press, you can do something that looks like this. And with alt and you click with the middle mouse button, you can recenter your view onto a point to rotate around. So this is like, your basics of how to move around. And of course, scroll wheel scrolls. So that's your basic how to navigate, I guess. More keybinds. So if you press, there's basically like 3 main keybinds you're going to want to know. So G to move, R to rotate, and S to scale. Now, everything except for G is easy to understand. Also, if you right click, it cancels the action. So like I'm pressing G and moving it around, and if I right click, it cancels the action. Of course, left click is how you confirm it, and Control Z is to undo. If it didn't undo, we'd be in a bit of a problem. And now, moving is fine, but this doesn't seem to be very precise. You don't have a good understanding of where it is in 3D space. To get a better idea, you can press G and then specify either X, Y, or Z by pressing the corresponding X, Y, or Z keys. So X is for the red axis, as you can see. Green is the Y axis, and blue is the Z axis. With a combination of things, you can start moving things around really easily. This also applies to this rotation and scale, as you can see. So another fun thing that you want to know is if you press Shift in an axis, like G, and then Shift and Z, it moves on everything except for that axis, which is really useful for something like this if you want to move it parallel, like on that ground, like drag it around, so that way it stays, parallel to the ground. If you press Alt in either G, R, and S, it clears the rotation, or the location, rotation, and scale respectively. So like, if we were to scale this, rotate it, move it along, and then I press like Alt S reverses scale, Alt R reverses rotation, Alt G reverses location to defaults. Now, alright, so that's your like overview of keybinds. I'll write that down in my notes as keybinds. So now, over here. So now for putting in the rig. Now, a rig is basically just a fancy way of saying the actual character itself that you want to use. So in this instance, after you've already installed, if you've already downloaded that .bun file, if you press F3 on your keyboard. Now, in the event that you do not have like function keys, then I don't even know what to do for you. So press F3 on your keyboard and search for append. So file append. Alternatively, you could just come up here to file and click on append, but F3 is a really useful keybind. Then you want to locate wherever you have it downloaded. So I have it in my downloads folder after all of these other subfolders that are in my downloads folder. Then use char for doesn't like me. So use char 4, if I can re-find it. There we go. So double click on it. Once it's double clicked, you want to go into collection and then double click on the collection. And it's going to import all this stuff in. So in order to get rid of things, like for example this cube, if you don't want it, you can just press X. This little delete menu. Like we can get rid of the camera with X. We can get rid of this light with X. Now comes this rig. Right now it doesn't look colored or anything. We're going to get to that. So, let's see. So moving the rig. To move the rig, you want to... Blender doesn't recognize each of these little balls right here as individual objects right now. So like if you try to select like the head bone and move it around, it doesn't exactly move. You try to rotate things, it rotates the entire rig. And if you try to select like just this arm, it does some wonky things when you try to rotate it or move it or scale it. Scaling is fine, but it does some wonky things. So, in order to tell Blender that I want to pose it, we have to specify a pose mode. So to go into pose mode, you have to press Control and Tab. So Control and Tab, and then you can select each of these things. Note, you cannot select the other objects. So, for example, I cannot select this sun lamp right here. But the rest of it I can select. To get out of it, you can press Control and Tab again. If you do not like the shortcut, there's also up here, pose mode and object mode, which is to pose and object. So with pose mode, you can use our same keybinds of G to move, our keybinds of R to rotate, and our keybinds of S to scale. So, you know, got some shoulder right here, and if you press shift, you can select multiple bones at once. So I'm going to start posing this. I'm going to put it into a position where I think I could fit a weapon into it, because we're going to be going over weapons as well. I'm also going to rotate the foot, move it out a little bit, move the body down on the Z-axis, use these little bones to just mess around with the bones. A lot of this is messing around. A lot of things can be moved. Basically everything can be moved. So if I think this is a nice pose and I like this, it doesn't have any color to it. So to go into color, you have to actually go into object mode. So you can know it's object mode because instead of stuff being like blue and all these colors, it's instead just a solid color. And select any of these objects here. Any one will do. Then you want to go into these different tabs up here. There's many different tabs. Well, you don't have to. So let's just do it over here. So, actually no. So, I should probably mark this down. So, shading. Up here in the shading tab, there's like these different tabs that you can look at. And now in the shading tab, you have like basically a split workspace in which you have your, blender guy up here, except it actually has a color to it now, and then you have this complicated graph. So all we need to, scroll wheel works, middle mouse button works. That's how you move around it here. In order to give this a color, that's where the KRUNKskins.zip comes in. So just click on open image and navigate to wherever you've downloaded it, have it, zipped it. I'm going to choose Triggerman because it's classic. And then we can go back to layout tab and don't have to ever touch the shading tab again. To see this changes in effect over here, if you hold down Z, which might seem like a weird button, but if you hold down Z, you get this little wheel right here, which you can change to from solid mode, which is what we were in, to material preview. Alternatively, you can come up here and choose material preview or look dev up here. Now to actually import a weapon in, because that otherwise we're boring. So F3 again, and KRUNKER stores their stuff as in OBJ format. So for weapons and stuff, KRUNKER Essential Assets, which is in the KRUNKER Design Hub Discord, which is a partner Discord for the KRUNKER official Discord. Link to that specific Discord is in the description. But timestamp. So to add a weapon, it's F3 again, and import OBJ, because OBJ is the format. So, once you got that extracted, I'm going to navigate to where I have it, which is in KRUNKER Expanded Assets, Weapons, to Assault Rifle, Weapon 2 to OBJ. Right now, when it's imported, it's extremely large. Like, this is not what you want. So, to fix this, I'm going to select it, and I know it's selected because it has this orangey outline. Alternatively, you can know it's selected because of here, it's got this little cube thing. But anyways, I'm going to press S 0.001 and press enter, which will scale it down by 0.001, which is going to make it look normal enough. And then to finally give this a texture, you want to come into the shading tab. Make sure that this is selected, of course, again. Shift and A, which is how you add things. For example, in here, if I wanted to add a plane, I can press Shift and A, in the mesh plane, and press S to scale this up, G to move it. And then, finally, you can Shift A over here, and I'm going to search for image texture. And then connect the color output of the image texture into the base color of the actual weapon. It's going to turn black. So we're going to open up, navigate to the same file where you had the OBJ file, and instead choose weapon2.png. Or any weapon. You can do this with AK, you can do this with snipers, you can do this with any weapon, of course. Then, in order to parent this, to put it onto the hand, you can do a really boring way, which is called moving this over and trying to, get the rotation right or something. But we're not boring, alright? we're going to do a super cool way. It's called coming over here into this little orange tab right here, which is the object properties. Clicking on relations, parent, use this eyedropper tool and select the little outline, which is going to be called armature. Select the outline, and already its parents is like the hips. Although we're going to go a step further. We're going to turn this parent type into bone, and our parent bone into leg. Dude's using this side. So low arm, and then this is, we want on the right arm, so I'm going to use low arm R. And already you can see that it's like in that hand. Then we can modify these rotation properties over here. So I can set this to -90, see what this one does. I don't like that, so set this to 0, set this one to 90. I can begin to move it here. Alternatively, if you want a more visual way here, you can come up here and click on transform, and under viewport object gizmos, change this to local. It's gonna make it look like this, so you can move things along. Then I can modify the pose, tweak it a bit, tweak everything how I want. And now for stuff like cosmetics. So to get cosmetics in, press F3 again, import OBJ, it's already there, and then you want to instead navigate to wherever you've downloaded, let's say like hats. Now for this hat, we're going to do Plague Doctor, because it's cool. And same thing we did with this, with this and setting the relations, we want to do the same thing. So parent to here, parent type of bone, parent bone, except this time to head. Then we can start modifying with these properties until it looks nice. Then come over to shading, and then add in that. So Plague Doctor is 199, which you can find from this little number right here. So you can also look up 199 in that folder. Then Night Doctor, I kind of like a little bit more, so we're going to use that. So now that's imported. And then just to show everything, I'm now going to do a body back item. So for body, I don't know. Let's do swipe left. So select it, set the parent to the armature, set the parent type to bone, set the bone to instead spine. You want some like lower spine. Modify these to looks about right for you. You can also scale it, of course, give it this shade. So give it an image texture, put the color to the color, open a color, come over here, swipe left. That's swipe left. Now for stuff like waste. Waste items are a little bit different. Waste items, some of them, I don't think I have them. Yeah, I do have them. Alright, so waste items. So I don't think these ones are named. But there might be some named ones, but like for example, this one, which is like the Wolfer Dice or number 5. Set the parent to it, set the type to bone, and set type thing to pelvis. This is the bone that you want for that. Oh, I didn't mark when you were adding cosmetics, so 90, move it, and press S to scale, of course, so we can scale it up to where I think it would be. Now, what you'll notice is that the legs are still here. Legs are here, even if, go ahead, same thing. Image texture, color, and base color, open, waist, yeah, 5. It's in there, the legs are still there. To disable the legs, to make them go away, come over into where you have relations, and under visibility, just turn off these two things. Show in viewport and show in renders. Show in viewport, show in renders. In the event that you want them back, it's kind of complicated, but come over here to armature, and then you're going to see these two objects, OBJ Object 7 and OBJ Object 8. Then you can just select them up here and re-enable it, like this. And you want to select both of them. Now, let's see, what time step are we at? So we're now at 20 minutes in. Bear with me. So now for adding in and rendering. So if you press C, you also notice that you have a render view. This is with like actual lighting. This uses this light. This light comes built in. I don't like it. I mean, you know, you can mess around with this. It also comes with a basic camera setup, which kind of lends itself to this. So to go into the camera, you can press numpad 0. In the event that you do not have a numpad, come up to Edit, Preferences, under, let's see, it's under Input. Then Emulate Numpad, which will turn, as it says right here, it'll turn the 1 to 0 keys into numpad keys, which is useful for stuff like laptops or people without numpads. So, first, you know, numpad 0, it goes to the camera view. If I want to make the background down here darker, I can come into, just like right above these little objects properties, I come to the world properties and turn the color to black, pitch black. Alternatively, you can make it super bright, you can make it a color, you know, you can make it red. Now, really easy thing you want to know is, how do I make this transparent, okay? How do I make the background transparent? So to make something transparent, come up here to this little thing that says like render properties, under film, and check transparent. It's gonna make it transparent. Note, just because you don't see the world, it still impacts stuff. Like you can see the world thing still impacts stuff. Now, if you don't like just the sun lamp, you can also Shift A up here, and I'm gonna turn off transparent for now. Shift A and choose a light. There's these 4 different light options. You got your point lamp, sun lamp, spotlight, and area lamp. I'm gonna add an area lamp. Move it with G, of course. R to rotate. Pressing R twice does a trackball thing, which is actually kind of cool. Then scale it. And then under these properties right here, which is where the light is, like the little light properties, got a little light on. There's a lot of stuff that you need to learn. This is why the video is long, because it goes over everything. Then I can change the strength up, make it brighter. So now he's illuminated like this. And to finally render, you want to come into Render, Render Image. Alternatively, if you can already see the shortcut is F12 right here, then it'll render it. And it renders in under a second. Look at that. Take that, C4D users. It renders in under a second. You won't get, you know, like your watermark here. I did some stuff with Blender to make it do that, but for the most part, here's your image. And if you want to save it, you know, F3 again, and literally you can just type save image. Image save as, right here. Save this to, you know, whatever you want. Save it, you know, you can then close that tab out. Alright. So now, I'm going to officially call this point, advanced stuff. Specifically, right now, we're going to do, multiple characters. So in order to do multiple characters at once, I'm going to switch this over to material preview. To do multiple characters at once, what you want to do is same thing as before. File, append, and then still do that collection. And then everything's going to be selected, so I'm just going to move this over a bit. Then I'm going to also remove this light and remove this camera object. I'm going to start posing this, of course. With lightning fast keybinds. Then start rotate a little bit more than just. Do something a little bit more interesting than the classic. I'll make it look like he's almost reciting Shakespeare or something. And now, so that's how you get multiple characters in. So, and then go into numpad 0 to get a good view of this. Maybe put this here. Move it a little bit. And then, of course, give it an actual skin. Crunk skins. Hunter. Sure. And now for stuff like custom skins, KA has a really good bot that does all the custom, that like asks for custom skins. Alternatively, you can once again open up whatever browser you so desire, go into krunker.io/viewer.html, press F12 on it. Let's just full screen this for a second, and then, like, for example, let's say I wanted a skin of also make sure you go to the network tab already. Primary skin, nuclear winter. So something that looks like this, which is a really good skin. I think Kelfie made this. But yeah, this is good skin. Then you can see, like, right here, it's got request URL. Copy this, Control C, Control V. It's here. Right click it, save image as such. And then use that instead of the normal weapon 2 for this. Like, for example, I'm just going to, I have some downloaded. I don't have, like, all of them downloaded. But I'm going to take, sure, I'll take this one. This one looks nice. And then you just use that instead. Now for multiple characters, let's just say that we did that in 25 minutes. Skins. So custom skins. Of course you can add as many whatevers as you want. For shoes, I didn't do shoes, but like for shoes you just put them to the feet bones, which I think are like, what are these things called? They're called leg IKR and leg IKL, which are the ones that you do it to. Of course, Control S to save. Please save things. Now for like, probably, I'm gonna do advanced lighting, which is not super. It's really not that advanced. So to do advanced lighting, you want to go to render engine. So render view, the lighting's pretty okay. I mean, you only got one sun lamp right here, which if we get rid of, then we got this one area lamp, and then we can continue to add some lights to this. Maybe we have a point light right here, move it to here, make it a little bit brighter, then it kind of looks like this. So for some advanced lighting, which I overly use this technique. This technique will make your renders like 100 times better, and everyone's gonna like you, and you're gonna get verified for stuff like this. This is how you make your renders nice. So it only works for outdoor scenes. That's another thing I should mention. If you want to do like dark scenes, you really gotta manually light things up. So I'm gonna delete all of my lights right now. So go into material preview. I'm just gonna keep deleting all my lights. So now all my lights are gone. So now everything's pitch black. No lights, no world view. Render engine, I'm going to change this from Eevee to cycles. Device to GPU. And to make sure that render actually recognizes your GPU, edit preferences and in system, cycles render device, CUDA, or if you have like a really good, or like a not, or you have like a good enough NVIDIA graphics card, you can use optics. Which is like, it's really good. There's also OpenCL for like AMD GPUs. So, with cycles, if we go into render view, you're gonna notice something instant. You really won't because I don't have any lights, but you're gonna notice that things react differently to light, and it looks a little bit more hashy. It's not real time. Eevee render engine is a lot more real time. You can see things instantly. So already, this looks kind of better. I also like to turn on adaptive sampling, and under denoise, I like to check on viewport. Just gonna, loading render kernels may take a few minutes. So, as we're waiting for that, of course, I think that's gonna crash Blender. Alright, that's going to take a little bit of time. We're going to wait. You're going to wait this out. So, once it loads, it's going to look a lot more like smooth, and you're going to get that noisiness, roughness from it. But here's a good time to say this is not the best rig. The best rig out there It's in link in the description. It's $10 rig for Blender, and it does a lot of this like importing all your skins and stuff for you. It's got a lot more features. Yada yada yada. I need to say it at some point, otherwise I would be failing myself. There we go. Now it's loaded. So rendered view, it looks like, you know, not real time, so you can't really like stay here for a while. But we're gonna go back to our shading tab, and in the shading tab, we're gonna go from object to world. So I'm gonna go to the camera view. I'm gonna go back to render view. I'm gonna remove our light. I'm gonna set, you know, background strength's already at 1. I'm gonna do Shift A here. I'm gonna search for a sky texture. You might get what I'm already doing with this. Put the color of the sky texture into the color of the background, and already this looks pretty nice. Already, but looks a little bit washed out. So under your render properties, under color management and exposure, you want to kind of turn that thing down or crank it up or down or whatever to however you want. And already, this looks pretty nice. And already, there's a sun right there. And that sun can be controlled with these things. So like the elevation of the sun, how high up in the sky it is, rotation of the sun. So like, normally you want your shadows, your stuff to be in focus like this. So already this render looks like 100 times better, right? Alright, like this one technique, Blender artists do not want you to know that you can tweak around with the exposure to do things. Another thing is that when you press F12 to render, it's going to take more than less than a second. And depending on the size and complexity of your scene, it's going to possibly take like minutes. We're not talking like seconds anymore. We're talking minutes for render time. This, like, you know, the more complex it goes, the more intense. And you can't hear it because I have noise reduction on the audio, but my computer fan is kicking away trying to calculate like basically accurate light. So as it does this last little square right here, which you can know what squares it's doing because it's got a little outline there. You're gonna notice you still have a little bit of graininess here. So I'm gonna go over here to like. So now, how do you denoise? How do you make a noisy image less noisy? So the solution is in this tab. It's not the shading tab, but the compositing tab. You're not going to see all this. I'm going to remove all this stuff right here that doesn't come by default. So by default, you have something that looks like this. You don't even have a viewer. So instantly what you want to do is you want to come over to options and enable OpenCL, which enables GPU calculation for compositing. Complicated stuff, alright? And also in your view layer properties, you want to enable this denoising data thing, which is going to add like a lot of more bubbles to here. You don't need to know everything, you just need to know you need to Shift A add a noise mode, put this denoising normal. You gotta make sure Blender does not crash. I think that's a good time to say that I think Blender did not like me because my OBS does not like me either. Oh wait, I think stuff's coming back to me. I don't know what happened. Alright. So, you know, now already it looks a lot nicer. I don't know what crashed, but I'm just gonna restart something. You get, you know, I said this is going to be the uncut version, so I'm not cutting it at all. No part of this is going to be spared. uncut release, which means you also get the part where I do something stupid and Blender doesn't like me, which is potentially pretty common for Blender. Alright, there we go. So that's restarted. I'm also gonna need to just go. So Blender re-responded again, and then you put that denoise node in there, and then it gets rid of the graining over here. If you can't see this, like let's say you got rid of it and you're back to compositing, you can press F11 to bring up the last render, and then smooth, and there's that. So denoise. I'm also gonna put a note. Yeah. So denoising. Now for, I guess, like some. What time is it now? So 34:59. I'm gonna call this. What are we doing now? We're gonna do some glare. So glare/glow. So glare and glow. What's that? So essentially, if you go switch over to Eevee, also, Eevee doesn't like the world thing. That's why we kind of did it for Eevee. I mean, if it did, then I'd be using Eevee a lot more. Trust me. Sky texture is a saver. So I'm gonna increase the light here, and what you're gonna notice is that if I do like a really powerful light, 5,000. So that's not that powerful looking, but it still is. And turn on something like bloom. What you'll notice is that it makes things that are bright even brighter. I'm just gonna make this ridiculous 10 times. It's gonna make things bright even brighter. It's gonna make them glow a little bit. You can mess around with all these different things, but in a nutshell, bloom makes things brighter. You got that on Eevee, but you really don't have that on cycles. So you got that, but there is a way to do it, of course. So I'm gonna re-delete that. Bring back our sky texture. Then in compositing, we want to Shift A and add a glare node. And also, to view this in the background, you can Shift A and add a viewer node and put in the image here into the image of the viewer, so that way you can actually see what you're doing. To navigate the viewer, you hold Alt and middle mouse button. V is how you zoom out, and Alt and V is how you zoom in. So this looks pretty ugly, so we're going to change from streaks to fog glow. Wait for it to update, and there you go. Now you got a little bit of bloom on there. If we press F11, of course, doesn't recognize instantly, but if we re-render, and here's a good time to say put the normal into the normal, put the albedo into the albedo. Makes your renders, makes denoise a little bit better. So press F12 again, wait for it to render. In the event that you don't want to denoise because you think there's some like artifacts or something, in this just, well, that's in the background. So under sampling in your render properties, under render sampling, this is how many samples, this is how many times the computer tries to guess at the spot. If you increase that number, of course, there's more times the computer tries to guess and the more times it's accurate. Because there's always going to be a bit of a Alright, and then you got that glare, which you can save. Alternatively, if you want like this viewer result is actually up here, you can just literally search for viewer node. It's going to do that little viewer thing. That's different from render result, of course. Render results got render result. So now for the ultimate secret, which I'm saving for later, of course. So 30, so like 38, 30. Importing maps. All right. Maps. Why do you want maps in your renders? Good question. So I'm going to open up, I'm going to just open up some renders that I can. And what you're going to see is that the ones that have maps in them tend to be pretty good. You actually have like the stuff around you, like, let's see, what's a good one to demonstrate that I actually used a map and didn't model. Wow, this is disappointing. Oh, but yeah, like, it's like this, you know, that's Soul Sanctum in the background. That's the actual map. You can recognize it. You also have this, which is, you know, Sub-Zero. You actually can recognize the maps in the background, and it's like, you know, colored, and it's actually got things. You've got, you know, Newtown with some extra stuff on it. So how you can get these maps? Server. Once again, I didn't instantly say about this, but if you go into my server, into the help channel, and you check your pinned videos, there's a pinned video here. If you want maps, follow this video. That's all I'm gonna say, really. I'll just like brief overview it, but in a nutshell, once you get those maps downloaded, you want, you know, import GLTF, find where you have the map saved, import it, double click it. It's gonna import. You're gonna get this little things down here. You can scale it. You can move it. So I can move this so that way it's actually like in the middle-ish. Also, cool shortcut. So Shift tilde, which is the button that's right next to 1, and above tab is how you can move in this like WASD first-person mode. So I'm gonna scale this up a little bit more. Move it down. Scale it up maybe a little bit more. Oh. You can get whatever scale seems good for you. This is probably like too big, but that's besides the point. And same thing, Shift and tilde can be used on the actual, and using the scroll wheel increases your intensity as well. I should note that. And then already looks pretty nice. And then, because stuff is actually in shadow here, I'm going to go ahead, rotate the sun a little bit. So that way it's facing here. So that way stuff isn't like, I don't know. I was thinking this was going to take like an entire hour. I mean, I already know people aren't going to watch the entire thing, but so yeah, timestamps, and then, you know, there's your render. Oh, also, so, you know, this is like summary. If you really want to know how to import maps and everything, watch that video, of course. 'Cause, yeah, that's, you know, where the video is. I don't know. I'm trying to think of like more stuff to put into one video of how everything you need to know for your renders. But I guess that's like complete basics and a bit of advanced stuff. I don't know. So I guess this is probably the end of the video where I say that, you know, so long, farewell. Make good renders, please, people. Make good renders. I don't want to see bad renders anymore. I'm sick and tired of seeing bad renders. I'm in the same pose over and over again. So hopefully with this tutorial, you can learn how to make your own renders and not default to doing something like ridiculous, like opening up a browser, going to the viewer itself, and then like thinking that crouching and putting some like hats on it and stuff. Let's put shoes in. Let's go over the top here. Sure, let's think this is a render. Sure. This is totally a render, guys. This is not just a game screenshot. Then you got something like this. This is, you know, this is how you make your renders. If you got this far, thanks for watching the video. Like, geez, you sat through all of this. If you have any questions, did I not do something correct? Don't comment I won't respond to like a single one of them. I won't hurt a single one of them. So like, just go into my server once again. Link in the description. Everything's kind of revolves around my server at this point. If you have help questions, people are there. We're reaching that 45-minute mark, which is a pretty important. It means that I've been kind of sitting on my computer. I haven't had lunch yet. So this is the end of the video. And thanks.